The wagon wheels creaked slower and slower until they stopped altogether. I didn't need anyone to tell me what was happening. I had seen the way my uncle and his new wife whispered to each other all morning, stealing glances at me as if I were a sack of grain they couldn't wait to throw off. Out, Aunt Clara said flatly. She didn't even bother looking me in the eye. Her voice was sharp and cold, like a shovel hitting stone. I clutched the frayed sack that held all I owned, a tin cup, a crust of bread, and a worn handkerchief that had belonged to my real mother. The cloth was soft from age, embroidered with tiny blue flowers. It was the only piece of her I had left. But where am I supposed to go? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. I was 12, not a baby. But right then, I felt like I was no bigger than the dust under those wagon wheels. You'll manage, Uncle Roy muttered, shifting in his seat. He wouldn't meet my eyes either. You eat more than you're worth. Can't feed you no more. I stared at them. These two people who had promised my father, on his deathbed, to take care of me. My father, who had worked himself into the grave in a mind collapse, leaving me nothing but his last words, "Stay strong, girl. Find your way." And now here I was, standing in the middle of an empty trail, the summer sun burning down on my head. The wagon jolted forward, Clara flicking the reins with a snap. "Wait," I called out, running a few steps after them. My bare feet scraped against rocks, and the bread in my sack tumbled out into the dirt. "Please, don't leave me." The wagon didn't slow. My uncle's hunched shoulders disappeared in the dust cloud they left behind. I stood there, panting, dust clinging to my tongue, watching the people I had called family vanish into the horizon without so much as a backward glance. For a long time, I didn't move. The silence pressed down on me, heavier than any weight I'd ever carried. The only sound was the wind hissing across the prairie grass. Finally, I bent down and picked up the bread, brushing dirt off as best I could. My stomach growled so loud it hurt. I tore a small bite, chewed slowly, and tucked the rest back into my sack. My eyes wandered to the endless trail ahead. My stepkin had spoken often of Oregon, of fresh land and rivers teeming with fish. But Oregon might as well have been on the moon for all I knew of getting there. The sun was already sinking, shadows stretching long and thin across the plains. I hugged Mama's handkerchief to my chest and whispered, "What do I do now?" There was no answer, just the howl of the wind and the distant cry of a hawk. I wiped my eyes on my sleeve. Crying wouldn't help. Crying never had. Clara used to say I had a stubborn streak. Well, maybe that stubbornness was all I had left now. So I chose a direction and started walking, barefoot, alone, with nothing but a scrap of bread, a ragged sack, and a hope so thin it felt like it might snap with every step. But I swore to myself one thing as the prairie swallowed me whole. If I lived through this night, I'd never again let anyone decide whether I was worth keeping. By the time the moon climbed high above the plains, my legs felt like they didn't belong to me anymore. Each step was fire in my feet, my stomach gnawed at itself, and my lips cracked dry. The sack on my shoulder felt heavier than a sack of stones, though it carried next to nothing. I wanted to lie down and let the night take me, but I kept hearing my father's voice in my head. "Stay strong, girl. Find your way." That voice pushed me forward, until it didn't. Somewhere near midnight, my knees buckled, and I sank into the dust. I pressed Mama's handkerchief to my face, breathing in its faint smell of lavender that wasn't really there anymore, just something my heart imagined. My head swam. The world tilted. That's when I heard it. Hoofbeats. Slow and steady, like a drum echoing across the plain. I froze, every nerve in me tight. Aunt Clara used to warn me about drifters, men who took whatever they wanted, no matter who got hurt. I thought about running, but I didn't even have the strength to crawl. The horse appeared out of the darkness, carrying a rider whose outline was sharp against the moonlight. He pulled the reins, and the animal stopped a few feet from where I lay in the dirt. "You planning on dying out here, kid?" The voice was deep, steady, not cruel, not mocking, just blunt. I lifted my chin, even though I was trembling all over. "I ain't dying," I whispered, though it sounded more like a plea than a fact. The man dismounted. He was tall, broad shoulders, weathered face, hair dark with streaks of silver. A long coat brushed against his boots as he crouched down in front of me. His eyes, I'll never forget them, were the kind that had seen too much, but still carried something gentle underneath. "What's your name?" he asked. I hesitated. Mama always said never to trust strangers, but Mama wasn't here. Nobody was. And the man's gaze didn't burn like Clara's or slide away like Roy's. It held steady. "Molly," I murmured. "Molly and Carter." He nodded once. "Name's Samuel Hayes. Most folks just call me Sam." He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a canteen. "Drink." I stared at it, suspicion wrestling with thirst so sharp it made my throat ache. "I ain't poisoning you, girl," he said, his mouth quirking slightly. "Water don't come with strings attached." My hand shook as I took it. The first swallow hit my stomach like a miracle. I gulped too fast, coughing, but I didn't stop until the canteen was nearly half empty. Sam watched without a word, just kneeling there, patient. When I finally stopped, he said, "Where's your folks?" I swallowed hard. "Dead. Both of them. My uncle and his wife." My voice broke. "Left me." He closed his eyes for a moment, jaw tightening. Then he stood and offered me his hand. "Get up. You'll catch your death lying in the dirt." I hesitated. If I took that hand, I was trusting him with my life. But if I didn't, well, there wasn't much life left in me to keep. So I put my hand in his. His grip was firm, steadying me on my feet like I weighed nothing at all. "You hungry?" he asked. My stomach answered louder than I could. "Good," he said simply. "I've got stew waiting at my place. You'll eat, get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll figure the rest out." I blinked at him in disbelief. "Why? Why what? Why help me?" Sam's eyes met mine again. They were dark and tired, but there was something buried deep in them. "Because somebody should have helped me once," he said quietly. "And nobody did." He didn't explain further, and I didn't ask. But right then, in the middle of that lonely prairie, I realized something had shifted. My uncle and Clara had thrown me away like I was nothing. Yet this stranger, this rancher I'd never met, was offering me a chance to be something again. I followed him into the night, clinging to that chance with everything I had left. The sun was already climbing when we rode into the valley. I sat behind Sam on his horse, clutching the saddle horn so tight my fingers ached. Every bone in my body wanted sleep, but the smell of coffee and wood smoke drifting from somewhere below kept me awake. And then I saw it. His ranch spread across the land like its own little town. Fences lined the pastures, corrals held restless horses, and barns stood tall against the rising light. Cowboys moved about like ants, shouting to each other as they wrangled cattle or hauled hay. But what made my breath catch was the house. It was the biggest I'd ever seen, 2 stories of timber and stone, with a wide porch that wrapped around the front. White curtains fluttered in the windows, and a couple of dogs dozed on the steps, tails thumping as we approached. "You live here?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "Me and a few others," Sam said. His tone was flat, but I caught the flicker of something. Pride, maybe, or just habit. When we stopped at the porch, a woman appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. She was round-faced, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes sharp as needles. She gave Sam a look that said she'd seen this before. "Senor Hayes," she called, her accent lilting. "What have you dragged home this time?" Sam swung down and helped me off before answering. "A girl. Name's Molly. She's hungry." The woman's gaze dropped to me. Her mouth pressed thin, but there was no cruelty in it, only concern. "Dios mío," she murmured, coming closer. "Your skin and bones, Nina." "This is Maria," Sam told me. "She keeps this place running better than I ever could." Maria reached out and touched my chin gently, turning my face side to side as if inspecting a horse. "Poor child. You'll eat. You'll bathe. Then we'll talk." The promise of food was enough to make me follow her inside without protest. The smell hit me first: bread baking, stew simmering, coffee strong enough to wake the dead. My knees nearly buckled just from the scent. At the long wooden table, Maria set a bowl in front of me. Steam curled up, carrying the smell of beef, potatoes, onions. I didn't wait for manners. I shoveled spoonfuls into my mouth, burning my tongue but not caring. Maria watched, hands on her hips. "She eats like she hasn't seen food in days." "She hasn't," Sam said simply. He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching me with that unreadable face. By the time I set the spoon down, the bowl was empty, and my stomach ached from fullness. I mumbled a thank you, embarrassed at myself. Maria softened then, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "It's all right, Nina. You eat as much as you need." I should have felt safe right then, but I didn't. Not fully. The ranch house was warm. The food was real. The woman was kind, yet all I could think about was Clara's voice. You're nothing but a burden. Nobody wants you. Maybe Sam was kind. Maybe Maria was kind. But what if tomorrow they decided I wasn't worth the trouble? What if I ended up back on the trail, thrown away again? That night, Maria gave me a blanket and let me curl up near the fire. As the flames popped and shadows danced across the walls, I stared into the glow, holding Mama's handkerchief tight in my fist. I wanted to believe I'd found something better here, but believing was dangerous. Hope was dangerous, and I wasn't sure if my heart could survive being abandoned a second time. Days slipped into weeks, and for the first time since my father died, I began to breathe without feeling like every breath might be my last. Maria didn't just feed me. She treated me like I mattered. She showed me how to make tortillas, laughing when I mangled the dough, and she braided my hair tight every morning, clucking her tongue at the knots. A girl should be looked after, she'd say, tugging the comb through my tangles. No one had said words like that to me in a long time. Sam was quieter. He didn't hover, didn't fuss. But when he taught me things, he gave me the same steady patience he'd shown the first night on the trail. He showed me how to hold a pencil, his big hand guiding mine across paper until the loops of my name began to look less like chicken scratches and more like letters. See, he said one morning, sliding the paper back to me. That's you, Molly and Carter. Don't let anyone take that name from you. I bit my lip, staring at it. What if they already did? Sam frowned. What do you mean? My uncle, I said softly. He told me I wasn't a Carter anymore. Said I didn't deserve the name. Sam leaned forward, his voice low and certain. Listen to me. Blood gave you that name. And no one, not him, not anyone, can take it away. Something in his voice made me believe him. When I wasn't at the table with paper, I was out in the corral. Sam put me on a gentle mare named Daisy. At first, my heart hammered so hard I thought I might faint. But Sam walked beside me, his hand steady on the reins. Don't fight the horse, he told me. Trust her. She'll trust you back. The first time Daisy carried me around the corral without stumbling, I felt taller than the sky. I laughed, really laughed, and Sam's face broke into the first true smile I'd ever seen from him. But not everyone on the ranch welcomed me. Some of the hands whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. She'll bring trouble, one said. Boss gone soft. Another snorted. Single man raising a girl? Folks in town will talk. I pretended I didn't hear, but the words cut. At night, I lay awake by the fire, staring at the rafters and wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe Sam would get tired of defending me. Maybe Maria would decide I was too much work. And then one evening, after supper, Sam pulled his chair close to the fire and began to read aloud. His voice was rough, but steady, rolling through the words of a book about a knight and a dragon. I curled close, my eyelids drooping, the sound of his voice weaving through the crackle of the flames. Maria looked over her sewing, her eyes soft. Sam caught her gaze and then glanced at me. For just a heartbeat, his expression cracked, grief flickering across his face before settling into something steadier, something warmer. It was the first time I felt the ranch wasn't just shelter. It was beginning to feel like a home. But in the back of my mind, Clara's voice still lingered. Nobody wants you. And I didn't know then just how quickly the outside world would test that fragile new sense of belonging. I should have known peace couldn't last. Nothing ever did. It started with whispers drifting in from town. Maria came back from the market one afternoon, lips pressed tight, basket of flour clutched hard against her hip. They're talking, she said to Sam while I sat nearby shelling peas. Saying it ain't proper. A grown man keeping a girl here, no wife, no kin. Sam's jaw tightened. Let him talk. But the very next week, a stranger rode up the lane. He was thin as a rail, wearing a black coat and a hat too stiff for ranch dust. His smile was the kind that never reached his eyes. Mr. Hayes, he said, handing over a folded paper. Name's Hartwell, from the Territorial Children's Aid Society. I hear you've got an orphan here. I shrank behind Maria's skirt, my heart thudding so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. She's got a home, Sam said flatly. Hartwell sniffed, looking past him at me. A ranch is no place for a young lady. She belongs in a proper institution. Sam's voice went cold. You mean that orphanage in Cheyenne? Where kids work like mules and sleep six to a bed? Hartwell's smile twitched, but he didn't back down. We provide structure and discipline. She'll be taken care of. Sam stepped forward, towering over him. She is taken care of. And you'll turn that horse around before I have you thrown off this land. Hartwell's eyes narrowed, but he tipped his hat and rode away. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, I was in the garden with Maria when the sound of wagon wheels carried down the lane. I froze. Dust rose, and out of it came the faces I'd prayed never to see again. Uncle Roy wasn't with them. Word had it he'd drunk himself to death. But Clara was, sitting stiff-backed beside a heavy-set man with mean eyes and a mouth set in a permanent sneer. 2 other rough-looking men rode behind them. My knees went weak. Maria stepped in front of me, her hand gripping my shoulder tight. Sam came out of the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. His whole face hardened when he saw them. "Clara," he said, voice like thunder. "You've got some nerve showing up here." "I've come for my stepdaughter," she declared, her chin lifting. My chest clenched. Stepdaughter. The word tasted like poison. Sam barked a laugh. "The same girl you dumped on a trail with nothing but the clothes on her back? That stepdaughter?" Clara's eyes flickered, but she pressed on. "I was in hard times then. Things are different now. This is my husband, Cyrus Blakemore. Together, we can provide for Molly proper." The heavy-set man stepped forward, holding out a folded paper. His smile was ugly. "Says right here I'm her legal guardian now, by way of marrying her stepmother. Signed by a judge in Colorado." Sam snatched the paper, eyes skimming fast. His jaw clenched tighter with every line. "This is a fraud. Legal enough for most folks," Cyrus said with a shrug. "Now hand the girl over." I trembled, clutching Mama's handkerchief in my fist until my knuckles went white. Clara's gaze landed on me, sharp and sour. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed. "After all I did for you, this is how you repay me? Hiding behind some stranger?" Rage broke through my fear. "All you did was work me like a mule, burn me when I was too slow, and leave me to die." Clara's face went red, but she didn't deny it. Sam's voice turned deadly quiet. "I've seen her scars. She's not going anywhere with you." Cyrus sneered, taking a step closer. "We'll see about that." And in that moment, I realized the fight for my place in the world wasn't over. It was just beginning. That night, the ranch house felt different. The lamps burned low, shadows thick across the walls, as Sam gathered Maria, Tex the foreman, and a couple of the older hands around the kitchen table. I sat on the stairs, hugging my knees, listening hard. "What do we know about this Cyrus Blakemore?" Sam asked, his voice low and sharp. Tex spat into a tin cup. "Nothing good. Heard he's got a reputation for talking and orphans, putting him to work till they drop. Gets money from folks who don't want the burden, then pockets the profit." Maria's face went pale. "Madre de Dios. They rent children?" "Not on paper," Tex said grimly. "But that's what it is." My stomach twisted. I thought of Clara's face when she looked at me earlier. Not like I was family, not even like I was human. Just property she meant to reclaim. Sam's fists tightened on the table. Over my dead body. Old Pete, who'd worked for Sam longer than anyone, cleared his throat. "Problem is, boss, if Blakemore's papers look official, he might convince a judge. Especially if he claims you ain't fit to raise a girl." Silence thickened. I leaned forward, straining to hear. "What do you mean, not fit?" Sam's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Pete shifted uncomfortably. "You're a single man, Jake. Raising a 12-year-old girl all alone, some folks would say it don't look right." Sam shoved his chair back and stood, anger burning off him like heat from a forge. "I'd never." Maria rose too, touching his arm. "We know, Sam. We know. But not everyone sees the truth. The law, sometimes it don't care what's right. Only what's written down." The room fell into uneasy silence. I crept back to my little cot by the fire before they noticed me, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Clara's hand reaching for me, Cyrus's sneer, those fake papers waving in the air. The next morning, Sam saddled his horse before sunrise. He crouched down in front of me. "I'm riding to Cheyenne," he said. "Judge Wheeler owes me a hearing. If anyone can tear those papers apart, it's him." My throat ached. What if he can't? Sam's eyes softened, but there was steel under it. "Then we fight again. And again, as many times as it takes." I nodded, but fear clung to me like burrs. After he rode out, the ranch felt empty, like the walls had lost their strength. Maria tried to keep me busy with chores, humming old songs, but I caught her glancing out the window a dozen times. Worry etched into her brow. When Sam returned 3 days later, his face was gray with exhaustion. He went straight to his study and called Maria in. I pressed myself to the stairwell again, my chest tight. "The papers are fake," he said. Judge Wheeler confirmed it. "But they're good fakes. Somebody paid a lot to make them look real." Maria gripped the back of a chair. "Then we can prove it?" Sam shook his head slowly. "Maybe. But the judge warned me. Law's not always about what's true. Some courts would rather see Molly in an orphanage than with me. Said a young girl needs a woman's influence." Maria's voice was soft. "So they could still take her." Sam rubbed his eyes. "Unless something changes." I held my breath as Judge Wheeler's words spilled out of Sam's mouth. A single man raising a girl wasn't proper. But a married couple? That no one could argue with. "Marriage," Sam muttered bitterly. "As if papers and rings make me more fit to raise her." Maria's silence stretched long. I couldn't see her face, but I heard the quiet tremor in her voice when she finally said, "Sometimes papers are the only thing the world listens to." I slipped back upstairs before they noticed me, my heart hammering. Marriage. That word curled in my head like smoke. Was Sam really going to marry someone just so I could stay? Or worse, would he let them take me because he refused? I didn't know which thought terrified me more. 3 days later, they came back. I heard the horses before I saw them. 4 of them, kicking up dust down the lane. I ran to the porch, my stomach twisting, and there they were. Cyrus with his smug grin, Clara perched beside him, and 2 of their men trailing close. But this time, they weren't alone. The sheriff rode with them. Sheriff Davis was a fair man, but by the book. He climbed down slow, removed his hat, and sighed like a man already tired of the fight. "Sam," he said, "I've got papers here claiming this girl belongs to Cyrus Blakemore and his wife. They look official enough to me." Sam's voice rang hard as steel. "Those papers are forgeries. Judge Wheeler himself said so." The sheriff spread his hands. "Maybe so, maybe not. I can't tell the difference. And when I can't, I have to err on the side of the law, which means she goes with them." My chest squeezed so tight I couldn't breathe. I pressed against Sam's side, gripping his coat. "I won't go," I whispered. Cyrus's smile widened. "Come now, girl. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I shook my head so hard it hurt. "This is my home. He's my papa now." Cyrus took a step forward, and in that moment I thought I'd faint from fear. But then a voice cut through the air, steady and sharp. "Wait." We all turned. Maria stood in the doorway. She wasn't in her work clothes. She wore a clean Sunday dress, her dark hair pinned up neat, her chin lifted. "There is something the sheriff should know," she said. "Samuel Hayes and I, we are to be married. Today." The words stunned the air still. I saw Sam's eyes go wide, his jaw slack. The sheriff blinked. Clara sputtered. "That's impossible." Clara barked. "You can't just—" "Actually," Sheriff Davis interrupted, a slow smile tugging his lips, "they can. And if Mr. Hayes is married to a respectable woman, then there's no question of his fitness to raise the child." Cyrus's face turned red as fire. "This is a trick. A sham." He pointed a thick finger at Sam. "You just cooked this up to keep her." All eyes turned to Sam. For a long moment, he just stared at Maria, and I swear the world went quiet. Then his voice came out strong, sure, like I'd never heard it before. "No, it's not a sham. I love her, and I should have told her years ago." Maria's eyes filled, but her smile trembled steady. Sheriff Davis nodded once. "Then there's nothing more to discuss. Those papers mean nothing now. Molly stays." The fight went out of me all at once, replaced with tears I couldn't stop. I threw my arms around Sam and Maria both, sobbing into their clothes. "Does this mean," I hiccuped, "you'll be my mama now?" Maria knelt, cupping my face in her warm hands. "If you want me to be, Nina." "Oh yes," I breathed. "I want that more than anything." That very afternoon, Judge Wheeler himself rode out from Cheyenne at Sam's telegram. The wedding was small but fierce with joy. Maria wore a simple white gown that had once belonged to Sam's sister, and Sam stood taller than I'd ever seen him, eyes bright with something unbreakable. I stood beside them, clutching a bouquet of wildflowers Maria had woven together, and when Judge Wheeler pronounced them husband and wife, the ranch hands cheered, firing shots into the air. Later, as the sun dipped low, I curled against Sam's side on the porch. "Tell me again how you found me," I whispered, like I did every night. He smiled, brushing a hand over my hair. "I was riding the ridge, tracking wild horses, when I saw the strangest thing. A little girl walking the trail like she owned the whole territory. "And what did you think?" I asked, my voice small. "I thought," he said softly, "that little girl was braver than any man I'd ever met." And I was right. Maria's arm came around both of us. The three of us sat there together, watching the sky bleed into gold, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a stray someone might toss away. I belonged. 5 years have a way of changing a person. When I first came to the Double H, I was a half-starved 12-year-old clutching a scrap of cloth and too scared to believe in tomorrow. Now, at 17, I ride Daisy like I was born in the saddle, keep the books for the ranch better than most men can add, and teach the children of the hands their letters in the little schoolhouse Sam built. But it isn't just me that's changed. The ranch itself feels different. Maria's laughter fills every corner of the house, softening Sam in ways I didn't know he could be softened. And when their baby, my baby brother, was born last spring, I thought my heart might burst. I'd never known what family really was until then. Sometimes, though, when the work is done and the sky glows pink over the valley, I ride out to that lonely stretch of trail where Clara left me. I sit my horse there and remember the dust, the fear, the way my heart broke when that wagon rolled away. I remember clutching Mama's handkerchief and whispering into the wind, "What do I do now?" Back then, I thought the answer was nothing, that I'd been cast off for good. But I was wrong, because fate, or God, or maybe just sheer stubborn luck, put Sam Hayes on that ridge that night. He saw me when no one else did. And Maria, she made me more than just a girl living under their roof. She made me a daughter. The world didn't stop testing us. There were more battles, more whispers, more nights I woke shaking from dreams of Clara's hand grabbing me back into the dark. But each time, Sam was there, his hand steady on mine, and Maria's voice was there, soft and sure, telling me I was safe. Now, when I look ahead, I don't just see survival. I see purpose. Just last week, I told Sam and Maria my idea, that maybe we could take in more children like me, the ones left behind, tossed aside, forgotten. At first, Sam just looked at me, quiet, but then his eyes warmed, and Maria clasped my hands in hers. "See, Nina," she whispered, "that is what this house was always meant for. And so we'll build it, brick by brick, heart by heart, a home for those who need one." Sometimes I still take out Mama's handkerchief, the cloth worn thin from all the years I've held it. I press it to my chest and whisper, "I found my way, Mama, just like Papa told me to." Only now, I know I never found it alone. Because the night they left me to starve on the trail was the night I was found, not by blood, not by chance, but by the family who chose me. And that made all the difference.